All right, so I got a comment on one of the videos talking about, from a gentleman talking about how to get into the diesel field, how to get your foot in the door. I'm going to tell you right now, there are going to be a lot of people in the truck industry who would be happy to have a guy coming in who already has a good background with how things work, how to use his tools, and wants to apply himself to learning in the industrial world how diesel engines work. So, first point is this: cars, in my mind, and in the mind of commerce, really, the transportation of goods is not done by cars. So cars are a want and trucks are a need. And when it gets down to it and things get tight, there's a whole lot more room for things that are essential than things that aren't as essential. Like, can you take a bus to get to work? Yes. Can you put 80,000 pounds on that bus to get to work? No. So a semi has its own dedicated purpose, and getting in the door in a big truck shop, I don't think is going to be as difficult as some of you might think. And I don't think that you're going to have a struggle that you might think you will have based on the difference of technology. Matter of fact, I would say you will have a whole lot more success in the diesel field if you've applied yourself to learning theory, because the theory is very interchangeable on semis, class 4 through 8. I have a truck, I have a vendor for engines, I have a vendor for transmissions, and so on and so forth, right? All those parts can be bought for all those trucks from the same company. So Bendix will make a air valve, right, for this and this and this application. And the way they build the air systems on the truck, it's the same air valve a lot of times. And it's the same, et cetera. There's a lot of parts that are interchangeable as far as use. So what that means is that I can streamline my information and my knowledge base to be really proficient. How good can a guy be if you see working at a car dealership, or even just a car maintenance facility or a repair facility? That's a huge spectrum of stuff and technology that you're going to have to be savvy with. I'm not saying, I've often said I think car mechanics know a whole lot more about specifics than diesel guys, because it's such a broad scheme of parts interchangeability in the diesel world and engine interchangeability. I mean, that same Cummins ISX could be in, every single brand of truck. Cummins held 87% of the market share many, many years back. And I know that there's, some different engines now on the market that are taking a little bit more stake of that. But what I'm saying is you don't have to understand things as widely as far as technology goes that you did in the automotive world if you're working in the diesel world, because of the interchangeability and the industrial application, meaning that a lot of those parts, they may come a little bit different for this model or that model, but they will be the same part. They may just have the turbo phased to a different direction based on what it's being used for. And so every single truck is built with a bill of materials, and so it's spec'd to have everything within that VIN number on the truck, so what kind of axles, what kind of this, what kind of that. And there's many other trucks that are going to use that. In cars, that may not be the case. And if it is the case, it's usually brand specific still. So a lot of the brands come up with their own technology, their own names for all the parts, and their own systems on how they operate. A lot of the same theory is the same, but the parts aren't. And the way that they built that system is sometimes far more complicated than other systems. In the diesel industry, it's not the same case. So you're going to see a lot of the same Bosch, high pressure common rail in use. You're going to see a lot of the same theory. I can look at any modern diesel engine and tell you by where the part is what job it has. And I don't know that you can do that with a car as much. And there's a lot more, to me, there's a lot more unknowns if you're working on a huge broad spectrum. And consider that you're never really going to be, there's offset here of necessity is never going to be there with cars, because there's such a high turnover at these shops. There's such a high turnover as far as the technology goes. Everything's exponentially changing. All the software. What I'm saying is, to stay with it, you've got to have this huge expense in tooling. You've got to have this. When you go to big truck shops, you don't own your own scanner. You're not asked to own your own diagnostic scan tool. They have laptops with all the different proprietary software for all the vendors, the CAT, the Cummins, and they provide their own software to the dealers. So if I was to make that move, if I was you, to go from cars to trucks, I would make it at a dealer, and I would make all the training that they have available. I would do it. I would do all of it, every dang one of them, because that's going to pay you in the long run. And some of you guys who have already spent some time in the automotive, you might need to be in a hurry to get back to where you think you deserve to be paid. It's not the same flat rate hustle in trucks that it is largely in automotive. So in trucks, the labor rates are $250 an hour. We can't just pad the bill with 3 or 4 extra hours of time that you didn't put on the job. That generally does not happen. And if you're going to take the standard repair times for trucks are pretty good too, as far as that goes. But if you need to take more time for gaining access because the truck was built differently, there's time for that. If you break bolts, there's time for that. You're not always put in this position that if everything doesn't run smooth during the repair, that it's going to eat your lunch because of the flat rate hustle. Instead, you're going to do a good job, and your measure of your quality will be on how many comebacks do you have, how long does it take you is a consideration. But nobody expects speed up front. They expect conscientious quality of work. Somebody who won't allow who's not going to stab the dealer in the back by letting things go that are going to come right back and give the dealer a bad name. And so I know the same thing applies to cars, but what I'm saying here is that cars and trucks, two different worlds. To get into trucks, all you got to do is walk into the shop, man, and say, hey, I've been in cars for a long time. I want a shot at trucks. I'll start you. You can start me where you start me. Give me a review in 90 days. And then it's on you to turn to and learn those things. If you need help with the technology, let me know. I would say that a great asset to you would be these books that Del Mar makes. They are the ASC test prep manuals. This was made by Thompson Del Mar Learning. 20 years ago, I bought these. They were like $400 or $500 from the Snap-on truck. One of the best tools I bought though, because they explain how the theory works, and then they give you tests, examples, so that they can see whether or not you're gaining the understanding. And just because you have ASC certifications in the automotive world, almost none of them are going to transfer over to the heavy duty. So, I want to warn you with that. But if you did get the ASCs in automotive, there are many diesel programs that will push you and help you and pay for you to get the diesel ASCs so that they can help to badge the building. I believe that your work will speak for itself. So if you had every ASC and you still couldn't run the overhead, you're not a master diesel technician, right? But you do have your ASCs. So you see, my problem is that if I'm a boss, I'm not going to pay you that wage unless you can run the overhead. I don't care what your paperwork says. So when we get into competency in the automotive world, ASCs might stand for a piece of the pay scale is for this amount of. That's not the same case in trucks. So if you can show work experience, specific engine qualifications, and that kind of thing in the diesel world, there's a different equivalence. There's an equivalency of either equivalent to the ASCs if you go to these schools or higher, because the ASCs aren't going to teach you how Cummins wants you to tear their engine down. But that's what Cummins did with me. So I'm a master engine technician, and I've gone through all these test prep manuals. I didn't have the opportunity to pay the cost. I've had a lot of kids. And I, to be honest, never really saw the merit of having an ASC if it wasn't going to materialize more money. If in the diesel world, the only thing that mattered is what I could produce, then why would I spin my wheels doing ASCs? These weren't spinning my wheels because these were teaching me things I needed to know about class 4 through 8 trucks, theory of application, how they are wired, how they work, and that type of thing. So don't spend your time on efforts that don't matter, making sure you max out ASCs in the truck world, because it won't always carry through with the same equivalency as competency, billing out the hour at 82 to 87% or better. So that is a huge metric in the diesel world, is percentage of, even if you get into some guys, when they bonus them based on percentages over a certain percent. So you might get a total cut of the labor sold in the diesel world, but it's only if you hit 87% as far as billed versus worked. And then they'll worry about that chunk of money that's due to you as a bonus. And there's many different ways that truck shops incentivize their guys, and it's an industry, guys, so you're in high demand, and we'd love to have you. And I just think it wouldn't be as difficult as you think to make that transition, provided the humility there to be able to learn something new again. Okay, so that's my 2 cents on that, and have a good day.